and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. It's the end of November, coming into that fall season again. And November, really, this time of year especially, has us thinking a lot about gratitude.
Gratitude,
so
absolutely.
I'm going to have JJ start us off.
Yeah, so I decided to look up what gratitude was, and so what the definition is the quality or condition of being thankful. So basically the general sense of being thankful and the appreciation or inclination to return kindness. So basically the appreciation of either when someone is kind to you or if you've been kind to them and they're showing gratitude for that. So basically that's gratitude is the quality or the condition of doing those things. And so I found it interesting that one of the things that's been said is that gratitude, they say, is it's almost they would consider it an emotion, but the reason they don't classify it as a full emotion like happy, sad, angry is there isn't a universal facial feature that everybody you just immediately know that you're being grateful for something. And so without that as one of the defining characters, they really don't think that it's a full consideration of an emotion. So
yeah, and really with gratitude, it's such an interesting thought. I hadn't really thought of it being an emotion before he looked up the definition of it. But when you think about it, really it's more of an internal emotion, it feels like, because when you're grateful for something, whether it's something that somebody did to you, or you're just grateful for something that you have in your life, or you're grateful for that sunny day, or it really varies, but it's a very internal thing. It's not something that you portray directly unless you're expressing things. And there's a wide variety as I was thinking about it, of how to express gratitude too, because sometimes if somebody just does something really nice for you and it's a really joyous moment, then you're smiling and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, that's wonderful. But sometimes we have gratitude in harder times too. If there's a loved one that has recently passed, and so that somebody's bringing food to you or they're expressing love to you, then your gratitude, it's not with that happy smile, but you're feeling that internally, and you're really grateful to feel that there are other people that love you and that care and that just are surrounding you. And so it's really such an array of emotions that can be portrayed simply with gratitude.
Well, and I would think that gratitude in and of itself would be more of a umbrella concept to what emotions are combined with that. So when you have gratitude, it can go with the happy or the sad or the angry even, but a gratitude you can actually combine with those and taking it almost as a more advanced version of those simple things.
Yeah. Do you have an example of the gratitude with the angry? That sounds really interesting.
Well, there were times that, personally, when I get angry, some of the things that it is the way that I can pull myself out of the anger, or the way that I'm trying to navigate the anger itself, is I look for keys of things. So like if I'm angry about, I'm trying to think of a specific situation, but if I'm angry about something specifically, and then there is something that actually offsets, well, at least this got done, or at least this isn't true, or at least, and that's where I get gratitude for the concept of that it's not a worse situation, or it doesn't, it wasn't as really that bad, it could have been so much worse, or recognizing that, what could have been worse in this situation, and that gratitude for that actually helps bring back, okay, it's not that bad, I shouldn't be that upset, or whatever.
That's a great idea, yeah, and that kind of segues into being grateful for what you have too, and being grateful, really paying attention, because no matter how dark a situation is, it can always be worse. No matter how bright a situation is, it can always be better. And really having gratitude for what we have every day is huge. I learned a lot about that through the sickness. I feel like I keep drawing all these experiences lately, and I keep talking about, over those last years, I haven't touched so much on this until we started the church. Absolutely. But it keeps bringing up all of these things. That's really interesting. But
because with the sickness specifically being, there are people that don't know, but being brought back down to your core person, where you really were unable to communicate on a basic level and unable to do basic things, growing from that, you start to relearn all of the basics that we learn usually as just children, and to relearn those and to go through that on a second time, you have a different, I think, understanding or grasp of what all of the smallest things are that most of us take for granted.
Right.
That we really shouldn't, and I think you have a much better appreciation for that.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I had gotten upset about when I did get sick was I used to see a lot of my patients, and I would talk to them about how they could learn lessons from some of the things that they did. And well, the lesson that often came up was gratitude, and having gratitude. And you know what people would say, why did this happen? Why did I get sick? You know, well, it helps you to have appreciation and to learn the gratitude and to find the good things that are going on in your life. And so what I got really angry about was that I was not a person to ever get angry about anything, but I always did have that appreciation before I got sick. I would get up and I would enjoy the beautiful blue sky, and I would enjoy a fresh cup of hot coffee and really be mindful of how it tasted, and grateful for all of the small little things. And so then when I got sick, I thought, well, this doesn't make any sense because I'm already grateful. So what am I supposed to learn here? Well, a myriad of lessons, very humbling, and a myriad of lessons that will be on other topics.
Well, and even just in that simple, like from a specific, as opposed, because yours was kind of all-encompassing.
Right.
But there are people like, they've done studies, like in 2013 there was a study about heart patients and people that were specifically having heart troubles and heart issues that were in the hospital. And when they were in there, they had them do where they wrote down what they were grateful for on a daily basis. And in doing that, it actually, compared to people that didn't do that, it kept their numbers up from the other patients that have been going through the same thing, and they have a tendency to sleep better at night. And that was just specifically for heart patients that they found that they actually slept better, which then of course is better for the body.
Right.
And so there are things like, even though I'm sure some of them were grateful for how healthy they were, even though they started having heart problems as a specific. And so,
right, exactly. And I learned a deeper level of gratitude and a deeper appreciation beyond the surface level of gratitude, deeper appreciation and gratitude, and learning to bring in and learning to let go, and being grateful for what you have in front of you, and then being grateful for lessons of letting go too. As you lose certain things or as certain things fall away, then you're creating space for more things to come in. And it's that wonderful cycle, just like everything, you know, we have the wheel of the year and we have the cycles that are always repeating. So it's always a good thing when you feel like you're losing something and something's falling away, just know that you're really creating space for something else to come in. And I think one of the things that I get grateful for most often is our cats, which I love that Luna's here during this right up at the front. Cats are such a wonderful joy, and dogs for all of the dog people too.
And
but
lions.
You can really learn so much. Yes, the lions we just saw a couple days ago. Amazing. But you can learn so much from watching your animals too, and just seeing how they you know, cats as an example roll around and they're so happy, and then you know they really indulge in their cat naps all the time. And
well, they take life on their own terms, which is, I think, a lot to be said. I think a lot of us get caught up in life and letting life make our decisions for us, and kind of we feel like we're just kind of riding the wave of life and not really taking a stance and making decisions and that help us go where we want to go. And I think the part of life is doing that, is not just going with the flow all the time, but finding out, what is it that I want to do? What's, you know, what do I feel like I'm missing? Where can I grow? And finding those things. And that's where I mean, a lot of people, their happiness can come from being grateful that they've made those hard choices. And that's something that, you know, if you've never really stepped out of your comfort zone and tested those things, even though it's something that you find really appealing, you could be, I mean, that could be something that you would find you would be the most grateful for, is stepping out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely, trying new things.
Trying new things and stuff, yeah.
Seeing life in a different way. And a lot of times if we just try to take on the perspective of somebody else too, that really helps. I know that there have been a couple times where I just felt overwhelmed with things, and I had a little bit of a harder time finding the happiness, which I equate a lot to gratitude, and I would put myself through the eyes of somebody that was homeless or somebody that was in varying positions, and I just look at my life wow, I have it pretty darn good.
Yeah, you put on a different filter.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And even in those levels, even when I was homeless for a period of time, I still was able to find things to be grateful for. Life has to be on your own terms with where you're at in life, which really goes back to being in the present moment. When you're in the present moment, there's always something to find joy in. And when you really look to it and you really just take in, one of my favorite analogies is a Buddhist monk that he was walking with another monk, and they were going up through the Himalayas, and they had no shoes on their feet. They just had their robes, and it's a very rocky ground climbing up through the mountains, and they'd been walking for many miles, and one of the monks was getting very weary and said to the other monk, "How is it that you're not in so much pain? You're just still moving along, walking loftily, and my feet hurt so badly, and I'm so tired, I don't want to keep doing this journey.
I don't want to keep taking the steps that hurt so much."
Right, right. And so the monk that was next to him said, "Well, it's not both of your feet that are hurting." And the first monk looked at him and said, "Well, yes, they are." He said, "While you're walking, one foot is hurting and the other foot is lifted in the air. And the foot that's lifted is not in pain. It's when you set it down. So put your focus on the foot that's lifted, and you won't feel the pain."
The other half of the time.
Right. There's always something,
Yep,
another way, another perspective
Another
to look at
perspective,
things. I fall
yeah.
into that analogy a lot. I love thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, now, as far as, and in focusing, I mean, like, as far as studies go, there was a study in 2015 where they had people write down just 3 things at the end of the day. 3 things they were grateful for that day, whether it was, somebody called me, I got to go see somebody that I haven't seen in a long time, I got to watch a show I love to watch, my football game, my team won, whatever it is. Write 3 things down each day. And what they did was, then they also had a gauge of what they considered their happy level. And when they wrote down for a week, 3 things they were grateful for, their happy level number raised up. And then when they did it for a full month, their number actually went up 5%. Now, I mean, if you think on a whole term of how happy you are with your life, a 5% increase is pretty dramatic. And then in 6 months, it actually went up 9%, and that's across the board. That's how happy they are every single day, pretty much consistently. And that makes an enormous effect on where you're at in life, how, by the end of if you do that, by the end of your life, you feel like you've accomplished all the things that you've been shooting for, and you're happy with where you've been most of your life. And not that you won't have down points, but you'll actually be more appreciative and truly grasping with the whole point of why we're here, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, my friend, and along those lines of it, my friend Pam gave me 2 years ago for Christmas, she gave me a gratitude box, and I loved that. She gave me a booklet of papers, and it had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it had each of the days, and you could tear them off in strips. And so every night I would write down one thing that I did that day that I enjoyed, or usually it was something that I did that I enjoyed. It could be something that you're just grateful for or thankful for too. And I really got so much out of that, and it was so fun, because then at the end of it, I looked back through and read some of the different things, and I realized about a month in that I wanted to write the date on it. So I'd encourage you to write the date on it from the beginning. That was a nice thing to have. And I realized I do a lot more that are really fun things, and it helped me take it in more. On the day-to-day, I enjoy the things that I do, but I really took a lot more when I had written it down, and then I could look at it later.
Then you can reflect on it. Then you can go back to it and look at it, because I think that's a lot like when people take pictures. And when people, they take pictures, it's not just to encompass that, whatever that picture thing is, that thing that's pretty or that thing that's amazing. It takes you back to that moment, and it allows you to be in the moment from outside of yourself. And I think that's a lot of what gratitude is it's not just when you're reflecting on things. A lot of gratitude has to be with reflecting on where you've been and having that emotion that goes with it. I think partially it has to do with specifically reflecting, and that the fact that it's not in the moment that you appreciate it so much. It's after that moment you reflect on and appreciate the moment that has just happened. And I think doing that in short spans is a lot more impactful than doing it in long spans, where you think about something you did 6 weeks ago or something, and you go, yeah, that was nice, but there's so much time that's gone between it that you kind of lost that emotional connection.
Exactly, and in a way that's what we encourage with being in the present moment, because you want to be in the present moment, not focusing on the past and not worrying about the future.
Right.
But when you write it down, then that's a perfect way to still be able to live in the present moment, but then you can really take in and value and appreciate when you are setting aside moments to reflect.
And you enjoy where you've been and how you've been.
Right, and I love those studies. It's really interesting. I like that some of the hospitals and some of the research places are really getting into these studies and seeing how we can prolong health, how we can make people happier, more grateful. It's great, and to bank on that research and just try it yourself and see how your happy level rises, you know?
And for some people now, there's a genetic marker. For some people, some people seem to be appreciative all the time of what they have and how they are. And there's some people that I think really struggle, and they've actually found a genetic marker that actually applies to those people that have it's that genetic marker. They have higher levels of oxytocin, which actually they've found when they did studies on that specifically, people with those genetic markers actually had relationships that seem to be actually stronger, more engaging, and overall happier relationships of the ones that they've had, and it's those people specifically. And they think basically that comes down to the fact that they were more thankful, they were more appreciative, they were more, they did appreciate the thing, and they're actually wired to do that more than some other people. So some people actually may have to work harder at it, but it's one of those things, just like a muscle or just like anything else. You can learn to do it, you can be better at it, and the more you have to, if it is a challenge for you to do it, it's worth the challenge, because being happy, of course, and going through those things is very much worth the challenge of if on the other end you're happier with your life and you have a better life. I mean, that is always kind of what you're shooting for.
Absolutely, yes, and it can be a learned trait certainly too, because and I love that when we study the genetic markers, we can kind of learn more about ourselves. I appreciated getting my markers tested too, and so it really teaches you a lot about yourself. But then it's never use that as a hindrance or think that you're stuck in a certain way.
Never.
Use that as seeing where you need to maybe learn a little bit more, where you need to have some patience with yourself so that you can grow. And
so if you have something that comes easy to you, you should make sure that if it's good for you and comes easy to you because of those genetic markers, you should be quite good at it, and you shouldn't just go, that's not a problem because I'm already good at it. You should strengthen that. But then it also means, I might have to work harder here. But knowing that you have to work harder just means you just have to work a little harder. I mean, some people are naturally stronger than other people. Some people are naturally faster than other people. But does that mean you can't get stronger? You can't get faster? Well, no, of course not. You can do that, but it just takes more work than some other people.
Exactly, absolutely. And I know that I was born with the genetic markers of the chemical depression, and I had to work really hard through that for a long time, and struggled with that through many years. And probably until I was maybe around 30 or so, I think, is when I finally started to be able to turn that around. I really focused on meditating on some of the brain chemistry too. So the oxytocin was one of the levels, serotonin is one of the levels. And when you meditate and you just ask your brain to dispense more of that, our mind is very powerful, and we are the caretakers of our brains, and we do have an ability to work on those and to fine-tune those ourselves. And so meditating on that was one of the things that helped. Gratitude was one of the things that helped. Being humbled by having everything stripped away that I had worked so hard at in an internal sense definitely helped. But I think you can do it with whatever you're at in life, wherever you're at, and just really knowing that sometimes it takes patience with yourself and reminding yourself to be in that present moment. And then really writing definitely helps a lot. I'm an avid writer, and it helps. The gratitude book is a great idea. And whether you want to do it as a book in a journal where you write every day, or if you want to do it, it was kind of a really fun, unique thing where I tore it off each day and put it into the box. And so then I couldn't really cheat and read back at what I wrote until I was scheduling out time and to go through the box. I I thought that was an interesting, unusual way to do it, but it really helped. It brought me up to another level of happiness, I
Yeah.
think.
And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't grasp is that, and gratitude, I mean, what we understand, at least in the English language, of course, is the simple thank you. And that, in and of itself, just those words, thank you. Thank you when somebody does something for you. Thank you when somebody just, hands you something. Thank you at all. The more you say thank you, that is gratitude, and that does affect your emotional state. That does apply to what gratitude is, just the simple words of thank you for things.
It does, and then that registers into your brain chemistry as well. When you're saying thank you, it really adds to, because your brain is realizing, oh, something really good happened because I'm saying thank you for something. And so it's a subconscious thing as well, when you just the simple words of saying thank you. And then I love that the definition also talks about acts of kindness. So sometimes when we're grateful for something, then we do something kind as a thank you to the other person too. And one of the things that I think has gotten lost a little bit is the art of writing out cards and mailing thank you cards and things like that.
Thank you cards, or because that really, you focus on saying thank you. Somebody has something physical, says literally thank you, that they can see over and over again. And I mean, it's a long-lasting way of showing gratefulness, and not only
thoughtful.
being thoughtful for yourself, and saying that thank you in a way that's very meaningful also, and then the other person receiving it, of course.
Right. And we can do simple acts of kindness too, where you just compliment people when you walk around. If you see something that you like, I love all the purple colors of the people here. It's one of my favorite colors. So just simple things like that, and then that gratitude, seeing the smile on the other people, it really just
lightens your day.
It lightens your day.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of what gratitude is about too, is just showing somebody else, honoring that part in somebody else, and letting them know that you're thankful that they were thoughtful enough to acknowledge you, to acknowledge your presence, whether it was doing something for you. That's wonderful too. Or just gratitude of what you have in life. I mean, if you look around, sometimes you can do this room by room too. If you look around, you're sitting in your living room, and if you're a little bit down, then you can look around and you can say, what do I have? The tangible physical things, and you can look around, and hopefully you have some interesting things in your living room that really brighten you up, and you can look around and you can remember, oh, that was a gift that was given to me. I remember when I purchased that. That was a great story. That was a great time. And just really being grateful for taking in all of the different aspects of what you have, and mentally and emotionally too. If you have a partner that inspires you, then being grateful. Take time to really recognize and think about what joy your partner brings to you, what joy your animals bring to you. If you have good neighbors, this is a great time of year where we think about our neighbors and what they bring into our life. And there is so much joy that can outweigh any of the humdrum of life. It's just taking a moment to really think about it, recognize it, letting that light shine in, and lifting yourself up. But I'd love to see everybody that's listening and everybody that's here to start writing something that you're grateful for. I know Jake said in the study they were writing down 3 things. So if you can write 3 things every day, and then right at the top of it, maybe write what your happiness level is that day. And then after a month, do another sheet where you write what your happiness level is that day. And then a month later, write, do a scale of 1 to 10, what your happiness level is. And then see after 6 months where you are compared to where you started.
I think that's right. Absolutely. So I think that's about it.
Okay, then we're going to go ahead and do a meditation here in just a moment. And I am just very grateful for everybody who's here and everybody who's watching as well. Thank you for being part of Earth and Sky. It's such an honor to be able to do these services.